Alright, how's it going? I'm just gonna do a quick kind of game of Rome Total War. Uh, um, I'm also doing an Oblivion series right now, but I decided I didn't want to play Oblivion at the moment, and I recorded a game of Rome Total War. I am playing as the Greeks, and I am versing 4 Carthaginian factions with 1 Greek faction on my side. So it's 2 Greece versus 4 Carthage. Um, as you can see right now, I have a crap ton of Spartans. All those units in red are Spartans. I have 4 archers, 4 catapults, 2 ballista, and 2 cavalry. And I'm gonna move them all towards this bridge, which is kind of gonna be what makes me have the advantage in this battle. Is I'm not really going to attack at first. I'm just going to defend the end of that bridge with some Spartans. And the catapults really do help. Yeah. If you haven't played Rome Total War, it's a really fun game. Its controls aren't really that complex, and it's really a good place to start out if you're going to start with the Total War series. The Grand Campaign, if you're looking at longer, like, multiple RTS games, and you don't always have to do the battle. You can always simulate, which it'll decide depending on who has the most troops, who's gonna win. Just like if you see that bar down in the corner, part of it is I think green, and the other part of it is red. And that it shows you who has the advantage in the battle. Right now it's saying that they have more of an advantage over me. But as you will see, that no matter how much of an advantage you have and what kind of troops you have, it does not matter in this game. It all matters on how you use your troops. Unless you have like 2 troops and they have 50,000, it really doesn't matter that they have more troops than you. It only matters if they have extremely better troops than you, and sometimes they will, but sometimes it's still easy to win when they have more better troops than you do. So right here I'm commanding 3 of my Spartan groups to hold the bridge. Well, sort of. One of them's only at the bridge and the other ones are standing back. I couldn't actually put them on the bridge like I wanted to, but it works. It definitely works. And the formation they're in is phalanx. They start in phalanx formation, which is great because anything that charges at them, with Spartans they have a really high defense and then a really high attack, so it's really hard to kill them, and they're pretty good. With other of the Greek infantry, it's not that way. The only ones that are really good, in my opinion, are the regular hoplites are okay if you're just starting out in like Grand Campaign. But what you're really shooting for is the ones above the regular hoplites, because they're not as strong as Spartans, but they do the job. They get the job done. And if you're ever playing against the Greeks or the Carthaginians, the best way to counter the phalanx maneuver on the spearmen is to use cavalry, and it's kind of stupid. You don't want to charge them straight on. That will just kill your cavalry. What you do is, if you can, you maneuver around their infantry and you hit their phalanx from the back, because they have no men protecting them in the back. So if you have a unit attacking them from the front, you charge cavalry up the back and it will totally destroy the unit, and it should almost immediately, and if not soon after, it should break into a retreat. And when it does that, it'll eventually stop retreating, but if it has over like 100 Sometimes it'll start retreating even if it has less than that. What you want to do at that point is you want to keep charging your cavalry at it, because when they're weakened, broken, and withdrawing, it's easier for your cavalry to kill their units. So you kill a lot more of them, and you ensure that they won't come back into the battle and bother you anymore. And the catapult just hit the right side of my Spartan unit, and basically just killed all of them. And if you didn't know, that was actually my Spartans killing one of the 4 enemy generals. And that's why it went into that weird camera view where you can't see my the control bar. You can't see the minimap. You can't see any of that. It'll do that when you kill commanders or when your commander dies. My commander's actually in a Spartan group right now, and he's not up there with the rest of them. I also noticed that those elephants right there, the ones with the blinking red, if you don't know what that is, that means they are rampaging. They've lost so many units or whatever that they're just going around and killing anything in their path. That includes their allied units. So by the time I were to get over the bridge, if I launched an attack now, a lot of the enemies would be weakened because the catapults actually hit them and killed a lot of the elephants. And those dead, charred, big bodies are elephant bodies, especially towards the end of the bridge. I think I only engaged an elephant group once, and it's near the end of the video here. Mostly it's just infantry and cavalry that charges my Spartans, or that I try to get past the bridge. And if you see, my ally is doing absolutely nothing right now. He's kind of doing what they're doing. He's lining up the troops, and I don't understand why AI does that. And I should have taken the opportunity now to cross the bridge, but I actually don't know if they have what they had at the end of the bridge when I do try to cross. They had their own they're called Sacred Band. They're practically hoplites, and my Spartans were getting wrecked because when your Spartans move, they say they move in that phalanx formation, but they put away their spears. And they just weren't doing as good, and there goes a Spartan flying over the rest. Catapults can really mess up your day, but if you have them, they can also excel. You'll see a lot of I might lose a lot of Spartans here and other units. I think it's mainly just Spartans, and how I lose those actually is because catapults are shooting over the bridge and they're hitting my infantry, which is actually kind of in big groups right now, so they're all cluttered together. So if they hit, it kills more infantry because it kills from more than one group. I really shouldn't have done that, but I did. Yeah. This is actually just a skirmish. This is not Grand Campaign. In Grand Campaign, it's always one-on-one. And usually the enemy AI has no trouble charging you. But I wish I knew how to give my opponents more money than my team, because when you start out in a scrimmage, you have a certain amount of money to buy your units, and you can change that amount of money. But it's the same for each team, and say there's four factions, or for the same faction on the other team. They have it split 4 ways. There's 2 on my team, so we have it split 2 ways. So we have more units altogether than they do. And I actually wanted to be kind of outnumbered and see what I could do in that situation. I don't think it would have been too hard because I always have archers, and archers are absolutely lovely. If you can hold a line and keep your enemy at that line, and you have archers, if they're not out of ammo, because when your archers run out of ammo, it sucks, because then they can only do melee combat. So if they're not out of ammo, you can kill a lot more troops, because while your infantry's holding that line, they'll just shoot over and peg everything that the enemy has coming at you. So those elephant bodies, by the way, do get in the way later when I'm trying to view my enemy's units right there. It becomes a hassle at that point, but they don't disappear. Once again, they charge my Spartan line, and like I was talking about, the enemy general just died again, and those archers are just shooting flaming arrows over. And I think I only have one archer in range, and I think I move him, or I already did move him up. But the thing is that they just shoot, and flaming arrows actually frighten the enemy too, which can break their rank. And this is when I try and charge. I think this is when I try and charge Spartans over the bridge. It's definitely a fun game if you haven't tried it, by the way. And if you like strategy games, it's kind of, in Grand Campaign it goes from, turn-based. You build units, your cities, your infrastructure, and stuff like that. And it's not as much infrastructure as it is in Empire, which is why Empire is it's grown from Rome to Empire, because there's been Rome, Medieval 2, and I think there's one or two more before Empire, and it grows so much from Rome to Empire with the infrastructure. But anyways, back to the point. It starts as a turn-based, where you get to build your units, build your armies, and you have certain generals, which generals in this game are family members, which can kind of suck, because if they die, your family can eventually die off if you like to use your general, you like to charge them out into battle. You have to be careful of that, because once your family starts to die, it sucks. That's the same in medieval Total War, but in Empire, your generals are actually hired. There is no family, it's just you hire your generals. Which I think is a little bit of a better concept, because you know, they can die and it's not that big of a deal. Where in this one, like, they gain so much command, influence, and management over their lifetime, and then they die, and say you have a manager for your most major city, that keeps it happy, when it would be like rioting and killing all your men, and he dies, then you have to go and change that entire concept. You have to either tax your people less, build the buildings to make them happy, or put a new general there, and that can take off from a new governor there, sorry, and that can take off a general that you have on the battlefield. But also, when it has a high command and he dies, that means, like, say you work with one general for most of your game and suddenly he dies, then you need to put a new general into an army, and he might not have as much command. So if you like doing, like, every once in a while, you like to auto-resolve a battle, because you don't want to sit through like 30 minutes to an hour of just doing the same thing you did 5 times, um, it's not as high as a chance of winning if your command isn't as high. And that's what kind of stinks. I mean, in Empire, your generals still have the command thing, but I don't think it influences the armies as much. Especially seems, I mean, I don't really think it influences the army much too at all. Like, I honestly don't, but you can tell that it does in the auto resolve because, you know, say you're battling without a general and your enemy's battling with a general that has full stars. He's battling with half an army, which would be like the whole top row of that unit listing there that you see on my screen. But you have two rows, and the battle's only halfway in your favor, but you have stronger units, or you guys have even units, but you just have more. That shows you that the command system on the general actually matters to the game. But I mean, you can go in the game, in Empire at least, cannons are my lifeline, if not everyone's. I know it's a lot easier to win with cannons because you can set them for a setting where they do like a scatter shot, and if your enemy's really close, it'll make them lose anywhere between like 1 unit to like 30 units if they're really close, and that'll break their lines a lot faster, which allows you to win. So, like, if I need a smaller army, cannons are definitely my strong point. Cavalry's another strong point. You know, when they charge, when to charge them, stuff like that. And if you just didn't notice, that was a peasant group that just won against a sacred band that my Spartan lost somewhere between 60 and 85 men to. So I want to know what kind of drugs my allies' units are on, and if anybody can answer that, that would be good. But right now, my ally is charging up the bridge, which I didn't really want to do because it was easier to let them come to me, but it was also going to take a lot longer. But it takes a long time for both of our units to cross this bridge. And the majority of the next, I think, 20 minutes is just our units trying to cross the bridge. His units get over faster than mine, but mine definitely take about 20 minutes to cross this bridge. I think one of them gets ahead, and by the end of the battle, there's 3 Spartans left in that group, and he starts retreating. The only thing that I think is a lot harder about Medieval Total War, I did mention that before, Medieval 2 Total War, the thing that's a lot harder is to get money, and that's why it's such, I don't think it's as much as it's as good as a game, is because it takes so much more to get that money that if you really want to just play a game, have some fun, and do whatever and not cheat, of course, you should start with Rome, or you should just play Rome, because it's a lot harder in Medieval, and I know people who, whenever they play, they have to cheat just to finish the game. Um, I finished one game of Medieval on a really small campaign, and I barely did it because of the fact that I almost ran out of money. Um, but I was the French, so you start out with like 6 or 7 territories, and you need, I think, 15 to win. So I went out and I killed the one enemy I think I needed to kill, and then just started attacking the Spanish and the Holy Roman Empire. And by the end of the game, I had 4 or 5 armies, 2 near Spain and 3 near the Holy Roman Empire, and um, they were costing so much that I almost went bankrupt before I finished the game. And in Rome, you don't need as big armies to win battles as I think you do in Medieval. You might not need big armies in Medieval, but you constantly need to change over your armies to win in Medieval, because everybody usually has more advanced units than you, depending on one or two of their colonies or settlements or whatever you want to call them. depending on the level. Um, Medieval 2 is also more complex because they have cities and they have castles. Now, cities can only build like militia units when they get bigger and stuff like that, and castles can build your strong military units. And that's another thing that can mess you up, because if you're not like Milan or Venice, which builds strong militia units, you need your castles everywhere, but you can't change the tax rate on your castles to get the money you need to complete the game. And that's what makes it so hard, is that you can't change the tax rate on all your cities, where in Rome Total War you can click auto manage taxes if you really want to, or you can just manage the taxes yourself, which I think is a better thing to do, because if some place is rioting, you just lower the taxes all the way and leave it at that. But and a lot of people have said about Rome Total War, at least I've read about them, that they never put their, or almost never put their taxes on low, because they want their to increase, or at least when they're playing as Rome they don't, sorry, because they want to increase their popularity. I mean, they don't put it on low to increase their popularity with the people. They do a lot of other things like conquering cities and winning and stuff like that. When if you just lower it, it kind of goes by a little bit faster. Because once you gain popularity with the people, you can attack the Senate and the other two Roman families to take over Rome. And once you need to control Rome to actually win a grand campaign with Rome, unless you're playing like a shorter version. But I never, well, I can't say I never, I almost never use the shorter version of campaign. The only time I did it was to unlock the other factions like Egypt and Greece and some others that you can play as for the campaign. I was kind of disappointed that you actually can't play as the Macedonians or Macedon, whichever one you want to say it as, but you can play as Greece. If that's that's about as close as you're gonna get with that one. So, but yeah, this video does stretch on for a while, and right now you can see, I don't know how much of it you can see, but you can definitely see the elephants that I never get to engage right there. Because I only have one Spartan group over here, and I believe he's fighting like a sacred band or something in front of the elephants. And yeah. And I actually figured out why my units weren't allowed to cross the bridge as fast as they should have been. And it's because apparently they were fighting scattered enemy units on the bridge, which was making them move a lot slower. Because if you see, almost every or all my Spartans have that red block with the two swords in it, which means that they're in combat, which, slows them down because they focus on the combat and not moving. So they'll flash for the next few minutes. They'll flash in and out of combat I'll actually make them move across the bridge over to where there are no enemies, so they don't engage in combat, so I can finish the battle. Which I think at one point I did speed it up, and I had trouble lowering the speed back down again because it was so glitchy because of all the units on screen. I don't have the best computer. I can run Rome Total War pretty well, but I can't run as many units as I am. I think I'm running, there's about 5,000 for me and my ally, and I think they have almost to more, I think they're equal to more units than I have, so I have like 10,000 units on screen, maybe less, and it's really just glitching my computer, well, not really glitching, but lagging my computer. So It actually took me 57 minutes to record this because I recorded me playing, starting up Rome Total War. So I recorded the intro to Rome Total War, the menu screen, the unit selection screen when I selected my units, and I picked auto select for all the computers in the game. I had recorded all of that, and once I cut that out, it cut off like, I think 10 minutes, maybe less. But it did cut out quite a bit of time, and I didn't know it would. I actually wasn't planning on putting this on YouTube, but I thought, hey, why not? I only have Oblivion content up right now, and I'm not exactly uploading all the time. I'm trying to upload at least one Oblivion video a day, and maybe something else. I will be. If you saw my last Oblivion playthrough, I actually didn't save after I stopped recording, so I quit out of the game and I hadn't saved, so I now have to go back and do everything I did before that, before I saved, or before I stopped my video, so I can start off relatively around the same place, or like in the same place, and I'll probably introduce what I accidentally did at the beginning of that video if I'm not right around the same place. If I am, it's not that big a deal. And if you watch this, you know. But, yeah. I do select all my melee units that aren't retreating. There is one Spartan retreating because I think it's retreating because it took so much damage. So I'm gonna put all my units across the bridge, and you will see my cavalry retreat not too long after that because they go from how much they are, I think it's 46 or something, down to like 15 range pretty quickly because I accidentally charged them into the front of a sacred band group, which are spearmen in a phalanx, so they kind of wreck those. And I am also sorry if you want to see more of the units fighting. I'm kind of zoomed out right now, so you're not going to see much of that. At first I was zooming in at some times. I'll probably do that more in my in other videos that I'll probably put up with Rome Total War. But I'm also gonna do like a grand campaign in Total War, and I'm gonna have to put that up in bits and pieces. There's no way I'm gonna put that up in just like one full thing. That would take forever. Mm. It would take forever to record, it would take forever to convert, it would take forever for me to edit, and then it would take forever for me to upload it onto YouTube. So it's not worth going through all of that. So I'm just probably gonna put it up in bits and pieces. I might not put up the whole thing. I definitely will put up the beginning, and I'll definitely put up the end if I finish. Sometimes I don't, because especially if I'm playing as a Roman faction, because no matter how much money you get, I hate it. I absolutely hate it when the event happens to change all your military units in the game. So basically, you have to replace your whole army with a different army because it won't heal at all, and that really does make me start losing money because I usually have four or five armies at a time, and they're not so large. But when that happens, I make my armies larger, which I really have to get out of the habit of doing. So if I can get out of the habit of doing that, I will put up as much as I can, and I will try and finish. So yeah. And the battles will probably be a lot shorter if I do that. It shouldn't be more than, like, I did record a few battles last night, which I deleted because it didn't record right in my computer. But I recorded a few last night, and they actually came out pretty short. The first one was like 4 minutes, and the second one was like 5.5. It really didn't take that long. Campaign battles are definitely different if you're versing, no matter what you're versing actually, because usually your enemy charges you if they're attacking, or you charge your enemy if you're attacking, and that's that. Now if you attack your enemy's army, but you don't. But once you get down to the RTS screen, you actually don't move your units. You will sit there until your time is up, and it will become a draw. Because usually they do not attack. They don't move their units forward to attack you if you attack them on the campaign map. The only time they actually will is if you besiege a city. They will attack you on the campaign map rather than you attacking them, because they don't like it when their cities are besieged, because their people start to threaten to riot. They don't always riot. Their happiness goes down. Income from that settlement usually goes down. I had one settlement that was making like negative 100, and the rest of my settlements were making like 1,000. It got besieged and it was making like negative 1,000. So it really draws out the money, and within a certain amount of turns, if they don't deal with the siege on their city, they lose the city. It usually says they'll have this many turns if you siege the city, or if you start sieging the city and you don't want to build siege units to actually siege machines to actually take out the city walls. It'll say you have this many turns and the city's yours by default. And usually they'll attack you. If they don't have the advantage, they won't attack you immediately. If they're rebels, they might not attack you at all. They'll usually attack you within the last turn or two that you need to take the city. Like, say you have a turn left to take the city, they'll attack you then. Because if there's one chance, that's their chance to push you back and keep their city. In my opinion, they won't be able to. Anytime. 9 times out of 10, they will lose that final battle if they attack them, because usually it means they're weaker. Now, if they attack you the turn you besiege, you might want to have brought really strong units for a line, and then archers to sit behind that line and laugh and shoot at your enemy, and cavalry that can charge anything that does not carry a spear. Cavalry in this game, in my opinion, is extremely good. What I use it for, anyways, is I usually take out my enemy's archers because they're the only thing that can deal damage to me just by sitting there. Sitting there in back of the attacking units, they can just pick off my units one by one. So usually what I do is I charge my cavalry and take them out. And then if I'm behind them and they have spearmen, I'll charge the spearmen from behind. But cavalry are really good because if you have a unit that's falling under attack, say you just you form your line at the beginning of your game and you don't move any of your units. So you let the opponent attack you, because you know usually you're good at defending and you're going to win if your opponent attacks you. Well, say one of your units is starting to withdraw, you send a cavalry at that unit that your enemy is attacking with, and usually it'll deal with that. Because usually when it's 2 on 1, it's more in your favor, so usually it makes the enemy rout. Once again, in Medieval Total War, the mechanics of cavalry, I don't like cavalry as much because there's just so many things that, in my opinion, aren't good until maybe later game, or maybe I'm just using the wrong faction. But cavalry in Medieval, I don't like it. It kind of sucks. It's a pain in the arse to use. It almost always for me dies pretty easily. unless I'm charging archers, because, archers can't attack back, or a routing army. It's just a pain to use, and I don't really like it. But every time I use a faction that doesn't have cavalry, I usually don't do as well, because I don't have that spur of the moment cavalry charge that usually routes an enemy unit if another unit is doing battle with that unit. So, I mean, I need cavalry, but I don't like it in medieval. In Empire Total War, it's pretty good. It's actually not bad. You it's it's kind of different because, your opponents also use guns, not just swords. So it can also lose easily, but on a good note, if they're already engaged, it usually tramples over a lot of enemies, and it's just in Empire, cavalry charges can win you a battle. It just depends on when you make your cavalry charge. You can't just make them charge at the beginning of a battle when your enemy is fresh. You have to wait until your enemy's morale deteriorates, because the AI's morale does deteriorate in all um, Total War games that I have played. So that's what you do. The only two that I haven't played that are more recent that are on Total War games are Napoleon Total War, and I don't really want to buy it because it seems like it's just like Empire Total War. Like there's almost no difference between the two. I'm guessing the Grand Campaign's kind of the same. Um, and Shogun 2 Total War, and that's because my computer can't run it. It's not because I don't like the look of it. I actually do. Samurai versus guns doesn't seem so bad. But it's just the fact that my computer really wouldn't be able to run it. Maybe when I get my new computer I'll get it, and maybe I'll get Napoleon Total War then and try it too. But I won't be doing any Empire Total War videos until I get a new computer, because I can run Empire Total War. I just can't run it while recording. I can barely. It runs okay with my computer, and a video recorder would just make it horrible, absolutely horrible. So I just killed my last enemy general, and his whole army um, decided to rout, except for an elephant that's rampaging in the background, which I just clicked on, and two units that I didn't notice that are to the west. If my units are going north now, they're to the west, so they're to the left. If you really want to just put it simply, um, but I try and charge that elephant, and now I fast forward because it's going kind of slow. But then I think those are enemy units, so I try and click on them, but I notice, hey, those aren't enemies. But I did look on my mini map right after that, and I noticed there are two enemies floating over there, and my ally is going to deal with one, and I am going to collide with another in just a second, I think. Or I was en route to collide with the other, but it looked to me like it was routing. I don't actually know if it is. I can't. Yeah, it's routing. Sorry about that. But I didn't think it was, so I started to charge that, and actually another group stopped routing right there, so I charged that one instead, and as soon as my allies' Greek cavalry kind of gets close to it, it starts to retreat again. So what I decided to do is watch my Spartans march and charge the elephant again, and see if I can actually kill it, because I've never seen what Spartans could do to an elephant. Actually, what any hoplite could do to an elephant, and it counts as cavalry, so I thought it might kill it as quick. But at the same moment, elephants in real life are a lot bigger, so if you kind of put two and two together if they used like real life mechanics, not game mechanics, which I knew they would use game mechanics, but those elephants would just trample over spears. Unless they were pretty nice spears. I mean, but I just wanted to see if how they would fare against rampaging elephants, so I sent them over there. And it's just like any other cavalry unit, they kind of just kill it really quickly, actually. Um, you'll see that it's a it it's rampaging in circles, so they get like really close to it, and when it comes back around to rampage over the units, they're all in a phalanx like they are now. They're just kind of moving slow, right here, and this is how they die. They just run into the spears, and it's just that simple. And this is the end. Um, so I lost maybe 600 units, I think. I'm the top Greek, and I killed like double that. So it was, if I was playing a grand campaign, and it was just me versus one Carthaginian faction, I'd actually be pretty proud of that. So now for a fade to black. I'll see you guys next time.